Hello guys, in this video we're gonna learn about um React and three.js and how to add 3D things onto React. So today we'll create a 3D scene with a box, a cube. So let's get started. First up, open your terminal window, then create a new React project and click create React app. Um, let's name it 3JSC. Great. Now let that be made, and I'll see you guys when that's done. Now that our app's created, let's cd into it, and now let's install some dependencies. So npm install three. We will need three, and then add the React 3 Faber and other React 3 drei. I'll include the command in the description so that you can just copy download it. Now let's let that download, and then let's open up the project in our code editor. Alright, so I opened up the code and cleaned it up a bit. So let's get started with the three.js. First, let's remove our h1, and we're gonna add something called a canvas, and that comes from React 3 Fiber. Now in canvas, nothing works like normal React. So if you try to add a div here, so you can't really add any DOM elements within canvas, or you'll get an error. So that is why you can't do that. Now first, let's add some light and give it an intensity of, let's say, 0.5. So now if we go into here, our app, now we can see that we don't really see anything, but once we add the objects, we should be able to see them. Now in our app.css, let's quickly make everything a background color of black. Um, okay. And now that everything is back, great. So for creating 3D objects, let's say a box, you first create a function named box, and then you return mesh. So you return mesh and this box buffer geometry. So that's for different shapes, you get different ones. For speed, that's a different one, right? And then mesh standard material is same in all of them. You can add textures and stuff. So for now, we'll just add a color, and we will make it a color of red. Alright. And now if we add a box, the function that we just created, then we should have a box here. As you can see, we have a box. Now we do want to move our scene, right? So first let's zoom in, right? And now let's see how we can move this, because it looks like a square now. So for that, we'll add something called orbit controls, and this comes from the drei package. And once you save it after adding orbit controls, alright, now as you can see, I'm able to move this, and as you can see, I can see um the box, right? So now let's add a bit more lighting by using spotlight. And spotlight takes some stuff, so it takes the position, which is X, Y, and Z. And now as you can see, we got our little light here, invisible light, and it's a bit dark at these sides. So now that a bit of lighting is done, now let's understand what's going on here. So as you can see, we added position and an angle to our spotlight. The That's just not needed. But yeah, so the you add a position to the spotlight and an angle, and you will get the light focused like that. So you have ambient light, you have spotlight, and you have point light. So those are the three lights that you have. Um, Point light just adds a sharp light. So yeah. Mostly I use ambient and spotlight. Point light is really rare. So yeah. Now in here you can do some stuff. So you can change the position of this box by using this mesh. Um, let's say you don't want it to be in the center, which is 0, 0, and 0. Um, let's try and change that, and let's make it 0, 10, and 0. So that's 10. That's plus 10 in the y-axis. So as you can see, it just went up. Um, Maybe let's just do 1 in the y-axis and 5 in the x-axis. Now let's try that. As you can see, it's a bit to the left and a bit up than the center. So you can mess around with the position here. So now that we've got our box here, let's get a plane for it, if that makes sense. And also there is a component by Drake that makes your app looks much better by some stars in the background. So yeah, and yeah, so there's a lot of stuff by Drake, such as cloud. You can get clouds, and also you can get fog. So fog is built into the canvas, and you can add some fog if you want into your scene. So let's add a plane now. Function plane, and for this you use plane buffer geometry, and let's change that to just black. All right, and now let's add plane onto here, and now if you see, let's refresh this, and okay. So what I did was I refactored all the code into index.js, and that because as you can see now, everything is taking the whole screen, so that looks much better. And now, as let's get back to what we were doing. So as we have created our plane here, as you can see, the plane actually comes on a vertical axis, and we don't want that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set a rotation on this, and it's gonna be rotation, and I think it's So let's quickly set a rotation. So the rotation is just an array with negative pi divided by 2, 2x basically. And I set this a position of -1 so that it's basically under the cube. Now as you can see, it's under the cube and yeah, now we have a plane. Now let's add some physics onto these um, 3D components, right? So we can do this by a library called Canon.js. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new variable const ref is equals to not in the return const ref okay. So we're gonna give it a function, and then for that function we're just giving it an object with mass and a position. And now let's hook up that ref to here. And now you will see something really strange. As you can see, nothing renders. Right. So you're gonna have to import physics from this, and you're gonna have to wrap the objects that you want to incorporate physics into. So we don't want the lighting and the stars to have the physics, so we're just gonna wrap the box in the plane. And now let's refresh this. So I made a little mistake, and I should have put square brackets in there. So now that that's done, now let's refresh our screen, and you will see that the square just falls down. That is because we haven't incorporated physics onto this plane, and the square just fall down. Now if you zoom out enough, so let me do that real quick. As you can see, the stars created a circle of stars where our stuff is, right? And you can always reset your angle to the normal angle by just refreshing the page. And now let's add some physics onto the plane. So now let's give it const ref, and for this we're gonna use plane, and we gotta give this rotation. So this takes in rotation instead of actually taking mass. And as you can see, the square now rests on the plane, kind of, because we set the position to be much downer, so that's what it interprets. So if we remove the position, now you can see that it exactly lands on the plane because the plane is at 0, 0, and so it just stops there. So yeah, that's some basic physics, and you can play around more by you can get an API property too here, right? And then you can use the API property to do some stuff like, let's say on click, we will just make this bigger, the box, right? So just no, we're gonna make it jump. So velocity is basically the height, I'm guessing. And then, as you can see, it just jumps, right? And yeah, so as you can see, you can just keep it off if you keep clicking. And yeah, so you can make mini games like this, and you can, there's a lot of things that you can do with And as you can see, some um, physics just acted there. So let's take it back up and let it fall down. So you see there's little bombs and stuff. So yeah, if you wrap it into physics component, it just adds that naturally. And yeah, that's the end of this video. And in the next video, we're gonna load in 3D models and learn how to do that. Thank you guys. See you soon.